I'm Paul,
I'm Devin.
and together we're Dads and Dice, two brand new dads who like to play some games in between doctor visits.
Before we get into the game today, as always, please, if you like this video, give us that like. Today, we're playing Draftosaurus. Let's get into the game.
All right, so before we actually get into the game, I have to tell the truth to everybody. Uh, we actually have not been truly Dads and Dice until this week. Devin has some pretty good news, pretty exciting news. And so, Devin, congrats, first of all, on the birth of your daughter. And go ahead and kind of tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, thank you. So, I am now officially a dad. The whole story of it is, well, not how a baby was made. Everybody knows that story. But the whole story of kind of the birth and going to the hospital is kind of crazy. So we woke up Friday and let me set that there. I should say Lacey woke up Friday and she woke me up in like the most gentle, sweet way about 5:30, right? And she was like, "Hey, babe, I think we need to go to the hospital, right?" And I'm like instantly like, "What? What? You know?" And she's like, "Well, I think my water might have broke. I called the doctor and they told me to just go ahead and come on in."
Yeah, that's kind of funny you say that because and not trying to interrupt your story or anything, but when we went to the hospital for the birth of Lola, uh, we had woken up. Kirsten had woken up, and basically the exact same story. She was like, "I think my water broke. I'm not sure, but I think something happened."
Yeah, so we go, it's, about by the time we get to, so we actually casually like take our time, right? I feed the dogs. We go ahead and take like the bags that we already had packed, but like between us, like her waking me up and us leaving is probably, I'm going to say 20 minutes, right? There was no like urgency of, oh, we got to get to the hospital. We're having this baby right now. We get to the hospital. It's like 6 o'clock in the morning. We actually make it to the floor.
Yeah, whenever we were heading to the hospital, same thing. We were in no rush. I do my streak mile. So we woke up, it was 8 a.m., whatever. And she's telling me, she's like, you better go run right now, or else your streak's going to end, right? At this point, what was this? This was last July. I'm like 6 years into my streak. So I do my streak mile, and we go by Chick-fil-A in the morning because I'm like, hey, I'm hungry. I'm going to be in the hospital all day. Like, I need something.
Right. Yeah, so we get to the hospital. It was really a weird situation because we get to the floor and we like have to be buzzed in, and the people are like, "What are you here for?" And Lacey's like, "The doctor told me to come in." And they kind of like, "Okay," and they meet us at the door. She takes us into a room. As she's like passing the other nurse, she's like, "Surprise, we have somebody." And we're both just kind of like, okay. Uh, this is odd. Anyway, so we get into the room and they check Lacey out, right? I'm now in this, oh my gosh, we're having a baby like mode, right? And so we're sitting there and nothing is really happening, right? They're just kind of like looking at Lacey. Very clear a baby is not coming right now, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like full on sweat, panicking, pretty close to like passing out.
So I think we have to give some backstory on passing out for you.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll get into that. Yeah, so I'm like, this is the beginning of the day, and I'm already this way. We wait, like they do little tests, take off a sample of whatever, and put that there, and then we end up just kind of like sitting in the room, chilling, nothing happening, nothing happening. Um, that there. And then a nurse comes in and is like, yeah, your water broke. We're going to admit you into a room. And that was just kind of like instantly like oh my gosh, like
It's happening.
yeah, we're having a baby. Well, so this is at this point it's like 7 in the morning on Friday. We end up sitting at the hospital. Pretty much nothing happens Friday, right? Like I'm texting all my family, I'm all excited. Hey, it's time. We're having a baby, and nothing happens, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I texted you Friday morning to see if we were going to get on, and I got the picture of Lacey at the hospital, and I was like, oh, there's a baby coming tonight, right? Like, there's
yes.
one coming.
Yeah, and so they essentially give her a pill when we started the whole thing, right? Um, Lacey was not dilated. She was at like a 1, right?
Mhm.
Of 10. So she's not really dilated and she's having no contractions, right? So
Yeah.
they give her a pill that's supposed to make her start having contractions, which will then, lead to her becoming dilated.
Also, real quick, I did win that last game.
I know, I saw.
All right.
Trust me, I saw. Um, oh, I should not have picked that. I wasn't thinking.
I
Anyway.
did the same thing. That's not the one I want to discard.
So anyway, they give her this pill and they're like, we're giving you 3 doses and you take one every 4 hours, right? Um, so kind of at that point we knew, okay, well we have like 12 hours. Um, oh, you stuck me there pretty good.
I
Um,
did.
put that there. So anyway, Friday is literally just that. It's like me playing on my phone, looking at Reddit, just her doing about the same. And yeah, so anyway, I'll fast forward to we get to Friday night, and after this kind of 12-hour window is hit, and it's roughly about 9 o'clock at night, they are going to start the Pitocin. At this point, she's not having a lot of contractions, but she is having some contractions. She starts that, and when she starts that, the nurse then kind of tells her like, okay, at any point in time from here that you want the epidural, just let me know. You know how Lacey is, right? She's like, I've got a game plan. I'm gonna wait till I'm a 5. We're gonna get that epidural and done all
That's
the.
a
Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's a very teacher, right? Teacher planning. She's one who goes by her plan.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So anyway, the nurse is like, okay, that's fine. But note that at any point in time it does become too painful, we can switch you over. I'll be honest, Lacey doesn't make it 5 minutes, and she's like, "Oh my gosh!" And like she is really feeling the contractions.
Yeah, those pills kicked in quick.
Yeah, exact. Well, it was added to the IV. It was like an IV
Oh,
type of
okay,
drip
yeah.
thing. Yeah, so she takes it. 10 minutes. She's like, we need to get the nurse. I've got to get the epidural. So the nurse comes in and she's like, oh, okay, that's fine, but you actually have to finish this IV bag, which they had just put a fresh IV bag on her, right? Like,
Oh man.
you have to finish this IV before we'll give you the epidural, right? So it took she did speed up the drip,
Hmm.
but it did take let me get this guy, about an hour to do. I guess this is the best time to bring in me and passing out, right? I don't do good in any kind of medical situation, whether it's me, whether it's Lacey, it's you, it doesn't matter. I'm not good in these situations.
So I remember the first time I knew about this is when you and I lived together at the old house. We had just finished the Hotter Than Hell 100. I knew somebody that was going to give us an IV drip. I thought we were going to go into a hospital, get it done professionally. But basically, she came out to my car and stuck us in the car. We drove home with IV bags.
Yep.
We had it hanging on the blinds,
Yep.
and it like fell down or something, and it ripped out of your arm, and blood was just gushing out. That's when I learned.
And I will never forget that experience either because that was very traumatic for me.
But to say all that with the blood gushing out, Devin does not do well with any blood. Blood is seen. He is going to beeline it somewhere else because he is more helpful when he is away.
Yeah, exactly. And so, okay, so yeah, that gets to we tell the nurses, every nurse we see for this entire day and a half experience, right, is hey, I'm most likely going to faint during Lacey delivering this baby, right? Like this is a dang near guarantee I will pass out. Honestly, I
And
think a lot of them think I'm kidding. They kind of laugh, but they all pretty much tell me the same type of thing. They're like, okay, you are going to park it in the chair in the corner and don't get up. They tell us that it is not uncommon. They get about one dad a week that passes out. Anyway, when it comes time for the epidural, her mom is there, and so she can only have one person in the room at that time. So it's very clearly not going to be me, right?
mhm.
Um, I go out, and honestly, I've now been awake for somewhere around 15 hours or so. It's been a long day so far.
So this is still Friday night
Yeah,
or
this is
Friday.
still Friday
Okay.
night, right? Like and it's been awake but doing nothing. She gets the epidural and like instantly she's feeling better. Instantly, no pain, nothing like that. I go back into the room when I can. She's like ready to sleep. I end up falling asleep on or not the chair, the couch. Her mom falls asleep in the chair. We kind of all talked and expected because one of the doctors earlier in the day told us that they would most likely not let things go past 2 o'clock because of when her water broke in the morning. That by about 2 o'clock, then it would probably turn into a C-section. Well, we all expected, okay, we're falling asleep about midnight. We're going to be woke up and it's time to go into surgery, right? Telling things from my perspective, I wake up at 7 a.m. on Saturday. I sleep like 12 hours straight, and I literally like wake up in this like fog, and I'm like, uh, what, what's
Did I
go?
just miss the birth of my
Well,
child?
and it's just kind of like, what's happening? Why? It's daylight now. As it turned out, they pretty much woke up Lacey every hour and were just like flipping her. She would
hmm
go on her right side, she'd go on her back, she'd go on her left side, she'd go on her right side, back, left side, and they kept doing that all night long. So we all wake up about 7, and then nobody comes in for almost an hour, right? It's almost about 8 o'clock.
Wow.
And once the nurse comes in, this is like nurse joy. This is not the nurse you want to see at 8 a.m., whether you're healthy or whether you're having a baby. She is so chipper, and I think she honestly, like, this is no lie. It's like the movie scenes where a person comes in and opens up the windows, to let light in. Like, she comes in and rolls up the windows and lets light into the room. And yeah, we're all just kind of like, okay. And so she ends up giving us the recap of the night, and we didn't do a C-section because Lacey was progressing all night long, right? She was getting
Mhm.
more dilated. They were also monitoring the baby. The baby looked healthy, so they had no real reason to turn it into a C-section. She's at like an 8, right? And
Okay.
the doctor that's on call then, right? Because at this point we've seen, I think this is our third doctor. It's like oh no, no, dang it.
I
Uh,
don't know. I think you got this one anyway.
okay.
Those the meadow differences there or whatever it's called.
Anyway, we talk and they're like, okay, you're probably gonna have it by noon, and so we're like, okay, cool. Um, so go a couple hours, and then nurse checks her, and she's like, okay, you're at like a 9.5. Do you want to start practice pushing? She asked Lacey, she was like, do you know how to push? And Lacey didn't because she didn't take classes, right? And
Yeah.
I told Lacey for months, I'm like, don't we need to be doing classes, right? Like, that's all I know about having babies is you do the classes, right? Like that's what you
Yeah.
do, right? You do those, I don't even know how many times, but you at least do those once before having the baby. And Lacey's like, "No, I know how to breathe." That was like always be her response to me is, "No, I know how to breathe." So, of course, this nurse asks us, "Hey, do you know how to push?" And Lacey's response is, "No." And I say, "Yeah, because we never took classes."
All of a sudden, she forgot how to breathe.
Yeah, and so the nurse is like, okay, well, we'll do some like practice pushing. This is really where the story escalates, right? This happens about 11 o'clock. So it takes the nurse roughly 30 minutes or so to kind of get her things in order. And then she's like, okay, we're going to start doing some practice pushing. So she kind of gives her the position, which is not really the position. I don't know what position I mentally like had in my head for, okay, this is the way you have a baby, but it was definitely not like her doing a ab crunch while holding both of her legs back as much as she could. I love Lacey lots, but it's not like she has like a ton of upper body strength, so she couldn't hold her own legs. All right. She also couldn't feel her legs. I'll give her that credit, right? The epidural had kicked in nicely. She could not feel her legs. So at this point, we realized the nurse has this cast on her wrist, right? Like it's
Uh-huh.
from here, or I won't say cast. It was like a pretty solid brace, bigger brace than you would like normally have for just like a small wrist thing. And she's like, so Lacey's mom's here. She's like, Mom, you're gonna hold the right side, and Dad, you're going to scooch your chair up because I'm in the corner, like I'm back here, hey, you're going to have the baby over there, go. Let me know when it's done. She's like, you're going to scoot your chair right up here next to her like you love her and hold her right leg. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not what I signed up for at
Yeah.
all. She begins the pushing. I'm staring this way. Lacey is like over here, and I'm like holding the leg like this and just not looking, right? Like that's all
Uh-huh.
I can do is not look. I am staring out a window and trying to count every leaf on a tree that's out there, right? Like I'm like just I don't want to know, and it's every at this point couple minutes. She's like, okay, you got
Hmm.
one, push, and so it's like lift her leg. I'm like, and so I'm probably breathing louder than Lacey at this point. I'm like, the whole time the nurse is like, wow, you're doing so awesome, like good job. Now in my head I'm thinking, well, yeah, she says this to everybody, right? Like it's not that I think Lacey's doing a bad job, but I'm just thinking like she tells everybody they do awesome,
Yeah.
right? Like why?
Well,
um
you're not going to tell somebody you're doing terrible. Improve yourself.
Yeah, exactly. So thankfully, it wasn't another nurse, but it was a hospital attendant comes in,
Hmm.
and she can see I'm kind of struggling, right? And so she's like, "Do you want me to hold the leg?" And I'm like, "Yes, please. I've been waiting for somebody to ask this question. Yes, please let me let go of this leg." At this point, the nurse that's working with Lacey, as I said, every time she's doing it, it's like, wow, you're doing awesome. You're doing great. That, like, it gets to the point she's like, you need to not push as hard. We got to get the doctor in here, right? Yeah, that's the point. I'm like, and if Lacey's been going for like 40 minutes at this point, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're like legitimately about to have this baby, right? Like, it is right now.
It's happening.
Yeah. How many more do we have? Two more? I have really bad dinosaurs for needing two more.
Not the best for me either.
I guess both these help you.
I
Yeah.
mean, not really, but
I,
it is here.
yeah, I was gonna say there's a definite spot for your dinosaur,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, let me get back to the story because I'm obviously at the good point and getting distracted. The doctor comes in, and I kid you not, like I'm gonna fast forward super fast because the doctor coming in is the end of the story, right? The doctor is in there for like 90 seconds total before this baby is born, right? So the doctor comes in and the nurse tells her, hey, she's been pushing, doing good job, whatnot, and of course when the doctor comes in, it's time to catch anyway. I'm off in the corner, looking at the window, occasionally glancing whenever Lacey's not pushing. All of a sudden, they're like, push, push, you got to keep pushing, you got to keep pushing, you got to keep pushing, right? And it's no longer like it's been like a okay, push, all right, let go, push, let go. This is like a no, you got to push, you got to push. I of course am like taking these like little glances over, and both nurses have now got essentially on top of Lacey, on top of this hospital bed. Her her feet were essentially back by her like mouth. They had like shoved her way back. They were telling her, push, push, push. You can't stop pushing, right? It was sheer panic. All three of the ladies they have these little like intercom
Uh huh.
things on their.
Yeah.
All three of them have pushed it and are like calling different people. The doctor called the NICU crew,
Hmm.
and then both the nurses called other nurses to come help. We went from having 6 people in this room within a all of these people showed up within like 45 seconds that we probably had 12 to 15 people in this room. I mean,
So at this point, though, like, are they like calling like in a panic, or is it like,
Yes, yeah. It went from like these calm pushings, Lacey, you're doing good, to like sheer panic, right? Like you felt that in the whole room. They're telling Lacey to push. They're on top of her. People are barging into the room. And
that's not what you want to hear?
no, no, it's definitely not. In the midst of all of this like chaos that's happening, right? And I can't look, right? Like I cannot,
Hmm.
like I'm just like staring out the window now, like thinking, oh my gosh, like what is going wrong? In the midst of all that, I hear a baby cry, right? And that was like this instant relief for me to know that, like, because that's the biggest worry. We've had a few miscarriages.
Hmm.
Um, Thankfully, this pregnancy was very smooth. But ultimately, it's like when it comes down to the day, like, you want a healthy living baby, right? Man, I cannot tell you just how much relief I had that moment that you hear that baby cry, right? Now, it's still madness. There
Hmm.
are, as I said, people were coming in, and essentially what had happened was as soon as the baby's head got out, normally the baby's head comes out and like the the shoulders kind of peak, and
Yeah.
the doctor then grabs at the shoulders and pulls the baby out. That's how it happens. Well, one of the shoulders was cocked and still stuck underneath Lacey's pelvic bone. That's why they called for all the help. That's why the nurses then had to like get Lacey's legs further back so that they did not want to have permanent shoulder damage or any kind of shoulder damage, right? You can break a bone, mess up a nerve, like all kinds of stuff. It was this mad chaos. They thankfully check out the baby. The baby had nothing wrong. That part was just a miracle.
Yeah.
It was a total emotional like moment, but it was so much for what we went through, like a Friday of sitting around doing nothing, to then like overnight thinking it's going to happen, to waking up and still nothing, and then like kind of a casual ramp up on Saturday to just this really, really like crazy,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, hectic moment. It was awesome. I of course got super super emotional. I had to hold back, like I won't say I was gonna bawl, right? I'm not the
Yeah.
bawling type of person. But I had to hold back quite a bit of tears. Like I was just so happy. I was so relieved that again we have this baby. She's alive. She's over there. And then once the NICU team kind of made sure that she didn't have anything wrong with her shoulder, they cleaned her up really quick, put her on top of Lacey, and then it was like, wow, there's my baby, right? Like it was, I don't know, it was just incredible, right?
That's
It was incredible.
Yeah, that's so awesome, dude. I mean, I know, like you mentioned, I know you guys have been having some or had some difficulty,
Yeah,
and the first pregnancy that you guys had, it was just a couple days before Lola was supposed to be born, like that whole thing,
right.
and we've talked, we've gone through all this stuff, and Kristen and I, we're just so happy for you guys. Like, it was just such an awesome, like, I don't know, y'all are gonna love it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking the whole time you're telling that story, I'm just thinking about like when I was at the hospital, and like it's cool. So I mean, congrats, dude. You're gonna love it. You're gonna be a great dad.
Thanks. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It was a fun moment. So, thank you everybody for listening to my story and me ramble on about that. Sorry I had a bunch of stops and stutters. It's kind of hard for the brain to process two things at once, but I know Paul wanted to hear this story. He's been asking how everything went, so I kind of wanted to tell it. This is the perfect platform to do that. Please, everybody, I say it all the time. I really do mean it. Like, subscribe, comment. All of that really does help Paul and I out. We're really trying to just we're doing something that we love, and putting out content hopefully that you guys love too. So that's your way of kind of helping us back, and we do appreciate it. Anyway, this was Draftosaurus. We will be doing an Afterthoughts video and have that in the link with it, so please check that out. It's where we'll actually talk about the game, I promise. But that's all I've got, guys. So thanks.